5, somewhere around there.
Okay. So do you learn how
Um,
to wrestle in Arizona?
yeah. So from there on, it was wrestling in Arizona. Yeah. My dad was a wrestler. He wrestled for Clarion
Oh,
University and stuff like that. So he's from Pennsylvania and came out to California. Him and my mom came out to California. He was teaching and coaching wrestling out there, Santa Ana, and then got picked up for a job teaching in Phoenix, where he coached for Paradise Valley High School. And that actually was the high school that I ended up going to. And so he was me and my other two brothers wrestling coach all through our high school careers, which is cool.
awesome. Well, we got another through line for you. We got a couple here, but since you brought it up, we
Yeah.
just recently had Keith Ferraro on, who is the current head wrestling coach at Clarion University.
That's so cool.
So there's a little
Yeah, dude,
through
my
line
dad
and
was in.
connection.
Yeah, he was actually inducted to their Wrestling Hall of Fame and everything.
Did he wrestle with Wade Chalice? Did they cross
Yeah.
paths at all?
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
Yeah. Can
wow.
you imagine that? Can you imagine
That's
that?
that's badass.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Very
crazy.
cool.
The wrestling world is nutty because it seems so big. I mean, there's all these guys and people talking that, oh, I wrestled in junior high or at high school, whatever, but you have all these names and um the way that people, the whole like 6 degree of separation thing, it seems like with wrestlers it's like two. Someone
Yeah.
knows someone who wrestled someone somewhere, always. I mean, I have so many weird little looped around stories when it comes to wrestling with stuff like that. That is just, and I never think about it when it happens until I look back and I'm like, wow, that's a weird coincidence. And that is also a weird coincidence. And that also seems to be a weird coincidence. It's like all the time. It's nonstop.
Well, we got another weird coincidence for you. You want to do it, Jimmy? You want me to do
Yeah,
it?
we're gonna make it a little bit smaller, but last year your broadcasting partner for the Cal Poly matches, Mike Mal, he's
Yeah.
a Jersey guy. He was
Yeah.
my junior college coach, and I worked with him at his wrestling club in New Jersey for a
Are
little
you
bit.
serious?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, man, 2 degrees of separation. I'm gonna tell him that because he's gonna call. He's gonna call with me on Friday.
All
I'm
right.
pretty sure it's coming out. So, um, that's crazy. When see who are they wrestling? American University. And what was the other one? Is there was one of the junior Jersey schools that came out, and he was telling me, but I was like, oh, I know this kid. Oh, I know this kid too. I'm like, how was he? Oh, he's a nice kid.
I know what that means.
Right? So that's fun.
Cool.
That's fun. Where'd you guys wrestle?
Jersey.
Yeah.
Well, I got the accent part, but like,
Well,
So
I wrestled in high school, and then I ran cross country and indoor and outdoor track at Monmouth University. I transitioned over to taking on running full time, and then
oh,
Jimmy took the wrestling route.
okay.
yeah,
All right.
I wrestled at Middlesex County College with Mike, and then I had a cup of coffee at UPJ.
I love those stories from the guys. Oh yeah, I was on the team for like a week or so.
Semester, a
Yeah,
red shirt
right.
semester.
I tell you, I mean, like I loved everything about it. Wanting to get into college wrestling even when I was in high school and earlier than that. And what's crazy is the intensity jump from each of those different levels, whether you're going from youth to junior high to high school to college. I mean, I was a high school state champ and a runner up from Arizona. I mean, I was good. I was a physically an immature kid. I didn't start growing until my first year in college, which I really could use that extra year. That would have been nice. But um, you walk in and there's like guys that are thumping on your head that aren't better than you. They're just thumping on your head and you're just getting, pounded because you're not to that level where you're like, oh, I really do need to kick your ass right now. That's the only way I'm going to survive this. It's not like, oh, check out this slick move. Like, yeah, check out this heavy forearm right in your skull. So I love that.
What weight did you
My
wrestle in high school?
I was a little guy. So my junior year I was 119, but I was cutting pretty hard. And then my senior year I was 132.
Okay.
And then I was 150 as a red shirt, and then 158 the rest of my career when I was wrestling college.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bill,
good
before we
times.
get too far into it, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm
No, it's
cutting
all
you
good.
and Rich off right now. I'm sorry. But before we get too far into it, can you let everyone know where they can find you, what you got going on, all your links, your podcasts, all your coaching, everything?
Yeah. Okay. So me, just my own personal Instagram. You can just look at Bill Grundler. And I think it's the same thing on TikTok. I'm trying to play with that whole TikTok thing. I'm more like watching TikTok than putting stuff on TikTok, but I do have something on there. My gym, my CrossFit gym is at CrossFit Inferno, and that's here in San Luis Obispo, California. I do a podcasting, a CrossFit programming podcast with my co-host, and the founder of the show was is Chase Ingram, and it's called Get with the Programming, and it's at Get with the Programming. What else do we have? We have a lifestyle brand that we kind of kicked off in the CrossFit space, and it's the OG culture. So you can find that on Instagram at the OG. I think it's underscore culture, something like that. If you pull up the OG culture, it'll come up there. Um, yeah, it's busy but fun. It's all good stuff. So I do my own, remote coaching. Oh, I guess you could actually find if you want like remote coaching and stuff. I have my own website, billgrunler.com. Um, the gym is CrossFitInferno.com. And then CrossFit is CrossFit.com. Right? So yeah.
And
So
so, oh, go ahead, Jim, you go. I've been
before
talking.
we got on here, you got into doing the commentary this year and the rule changes and stuff, and we want to get into that. I'm curious with the NCAA calls and doing the commentary for the Cal Poly matches, did that stem from doing the CrossFit commentary?
Oh yeah, 100%. The way that came out, it was kind of a cool story. So during COVID, all the gyms around here were all shut down. There was an element where we were able to kind of work out in the parking lot or do whatever we were able to do. But Cal Poly wasn't able to work out at the school. None of the kids were allowed to be at school because of all the COVID stuff. Well, the teams are all trying to wrestle and trying to figure out what they can do, what they can't do. And one of my members is a guy who wrestled with me back in my time, this guy Matt Wilson, and he was on the Cal Poly Foundation Wrestling Foundation board. And he was like, "Hey, this is kind of a weird question, but the guys can't work out at their gym. They're not allowed on campus. Would they be able to work out here at the gym?" And I'm like, "Yeah, are you kidding me? That was great." So we had them bring their mats into our CrossFit gym. And what's great about a CrossFit gym is it's all open floor. I mean, we don't have machines and all that kind of stuff. So all of our weights and everything are around the outside the perimeter of the gym, and the floor is just wide open. So we had them, I think they rolled in 4 mats. We had like 2 full mats in the gym, and those guys were wrestling and they were able to work out their practices and stuff like that. And when they were done, they just roll them up, and our people would come in and do the other stuff outside of that. And was talking to the coach, John Charitas. I was like, "Hey, um, I'm stoked you guys are here. I mean, it makes me feel good just smelling that rubber smell of the mats. That the sweat and the smell. Oh, it was like brought me straight back to my whole youth." I said, "I haven't seen any of your matches broadcast anywhere. Do you guys ever do anything? Like, do you have a YouTube channel or anything?" And he's like, "Well, there's a guy that does it. I mean, he's one of the Cal Poly guys, but he's not really very good. Doesn't really know wrestling." And I'm like, "Well, hey, I would love to be part of it somehow. I mean, I do the commentary for the CrossFit Games, and I know how to call live coverage. I'm comfortable on the camera. I'm comfortable on the mic. Um, so if there's any way I can be involved, I'd love to help out." And he's like, "Oh man, that would be great." So brought me in, and I was like, "Okay." Well, all of a sudden, it wasn't just talking like CrossFit. I know the guys. CrossFit, I know the workouts. CrossFit, I understand all the stuff that's going into it because that's what I've been doing for the last, 15, 18, 20 years, whatever. Wrestling, I hadn't done really, other than looking at like whatever they show on, NCA Instagram or Flow Wrestling Instagram or whatever. I haven't done any wrestling, so I was all excited about, yeah, I get to call the matches. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, I need to call the matches. I
Mhm.
need to now go over all the guys and look at all their stats and be able to have information to talk about them. And how did so and so do when they wrestled so and so last time? And are they a redshirt freshman or not? Or how did they qualify last year? So there was all that information that I had to gather quickly. And then on top of that, it was I need to get the dang rule book to find out if there's been any rule changes on anything. I mean, everyone knows what a pin looks like. Everyone knows that it's a 2 point takedown, right? Well, it was, but guess what? All you old wrestlers, it's not anymore. It's a 3 point takedown. So having to get up to speed with a lot of that stuff was really hard in the beginning. But it is so fun. It's like I'll watch a whole match and me and Mike will call a match. And granted, that guy's got just I mean, he is a plethora of information about anyone's matches, so he makes it really easy to kind of roll with. But just being out there and being able to talk about what they're doing and having that fun of talking about the matches and getting into the matches and getting into the crowd when they start. I mean, Cal Poly crowd people are pretty loud. I don't know if people can hear it on the mic or not, but it's fun, man. And there's no way that if I wasn't doing CrossFit that would have happened. I just can't see where that connection would have been made. So um yeah, it's been a tight circle, but now like the circle's been completely locked up to back with Cal Poly Wrestling right there, dude. Cal
Let's
Poly
go.
Wrestling,
Go Mustangs.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, it definitely helped out for sure.
So I guess let's take it back. How did the broadcasting come about for you with CrossFit? I mean, did you what when you went to Cal Poly, I would imagine you weren't a communications major when you were there, were you?
No, I was a biology, anatomy, physiology guy.
Okay.
The broadcast thing was, uh, I mean, honestly, luck of the draw. So the both my parents were teachers. I was a high school teacher before I got into the fire department. I was a high school teacher for a couple years. So I was a coach for a bunch of years. So getting up in front of people wasn't something difficult to do. I mean, if you put a mic in front of my face, I'll start talking with it. That's just kind of how it works out. Um, the very first live broadcast that CrossFit did was the SoCal Regionals, and that was 2011. Um, I think I was 40 then, and the old guy in the division. Um, but like I would do really, really well in an event, and then they would have some of the people like you remember all the old cats like Miranda Alcaraz, old
Mhm.
Royd back then, and Justin Judkins, who he also was a wrestling coach, wrestled
Yeah.
for in Utah. He wrestled for Boise State. Um, Tony Budding, all those guys. So they were all there working the actual first ever CrossFit broadcast. And it's Justin Judkins and what's his name? Shit, I can't remember his name. He was this broadcaster guy from Canada and a super straight laced guy. But anyway, they would have their broadcast, they would do their interviews, and I was doing well in the competition. I think at one point I think I was in the top five a handful of times. I was the firefighter. They had like my old firefighter Fran video that they were doing, talking about again, like who's this old guy who's out here? I mean, I was wearing the stupid 5 finger shoes. I was still working fire, so like I didn't have the beard. I just had I usually would grow my chops out kind of long anyway for just my fire department thing, and I would grow them a little extra longer whenever I would compete. I just because I didn't have to shave, so I didn't want to shave. So I'd have this weird, this weird, my Wolverine chops. I'd have my Elvis hairdo, and that's what they said. They're like, "What's this guy with this cut off sleeves and the 5 fingers and the Elvis hairdo?" And they started seeing me early, and then they called me in on a couple interviews, and they just wanted to interview me. And one was like, it was my birthday, and it's like, how are you holding up with all these guys? And but I'm like, oh, it's cool. And it's like, whatever, just line them up. We'll just go. And then they brought me into the booth to have a couple interviews there. And I just was, messing around with Justin and we're talking wrestling stuff and it was really easy to talk and it was flowed really, really well on the mic. And then coming into the very last event, I think I was in uh ninth place or seventh place. And I'm going out onto the track and it was outside. And Tony Budding comes up to me and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "you're doing great. It's awesome seeing you out there. You're a great story, being so much older than everybody." He's like, "Hey, if you qualify for the games, we're definitely going to follow you. But if you don't qualify for the games, you don't make it, what would you say about being on the mic and calling broadcast at the CrossFit Games?" And I'm like, "So I either get to go to the CrossFit Games or I get to go to the CrossFit Games?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, totally, 100%." So end up, I think I was ninth. I ended up the last event, moved up a couple spots. I think I was seventh. They took five from that region because Jason Kalipa was in that region. So he was like a legacy person, got allowed in. So missed it by two, but got to call the live broadcast that year. And when we first got on the mic, we did not know what the hell we were doing. We just started talking about CrossFit stuff. There was one guy, I think his name was Marty Say. He was our main broadcast person. He had broadcast experience, but he came from like a business, a Canadian business like CNN station. And he was like our main guy kind of driving, and the rest of us just kind of talked the other stuff. But yeah, that's how it started. And it wasn't, over the course of the next couple of years, we would have like these trainings every year of learning, like, okay, there's actually roles when you're on the air broadcasting, and a lot of people don't understand that there's a play-by-play who's supposed to tell you what is happening. So and so's moving to here, and so getting that, and so getting this. And then there's the color, which is telling you why something is happening or how something's happening. They were able to do this because they had their hands in this position. Well, look at the way they should be grabbing their leg this way or doing that, or his background is this, and so he's got all this experience and blah blah blah. So they add the depth of, so you have this nice balance between that. But dude, when we first got on the mic, we didn't know any of that. It was like in classic Tony Buddy CrossFit form. All right, guys, we're gonna be live broadcasting on ESPN. Don't fuck it up, because otherwise we're not gonna be able to come back. They were like, okay, scared shitless, not knowing who's listening or even what it sounds like or anything. It was very nerve-wracking, but super fun. Super fun. Honored to be part of that whole beginning of that for sure.
Yeah, you would never know that at this point that you started off very green and not having any experience. Were you a phys ed teacher, science teacher?
I was medical careers, biology, and ESL general science, and I don't know any Spanish at all. That was a good one.
Nice. And
Yeah,
you
but
coach wrestling too?
basically science. Yeah, I coached. Actually, got to coach with my dad. That was really cool.
Oh, that is cool.
Um, that was a legacy thing for me for sure. But just to, I mean, I knew the inner workings of his programs from being a little kid on, and you know, not just seeing the way he wrote down the workouts and all of it. I mean, I could go. I mean, he's been passed now for a handful of years, but I could go to my mom's house and I could pick a year. What workout do you want to look at? And I can pull out that week and have all of the workouts that he would do. So like I knew what he would do. I knew what he wanted. I think it was really nice for him to be able to have that right hand man that knew him as well as he knew him when it came to that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, it was great. It was great. I still, even when I'm doing, I'm coaching classes today, just regular CrossFit classes, and I mean, his voice comes out of my mouth on a regular basis. It's really funny. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, no doubt. Curious with you have a lot of people that have experiences with wrestling for their fathers, or we hear crazy wrestling parents, and you can take it to all youth sports and high school sports. So what was your experience like having a dad that is a wrestling Hall of Fame at Clarion, wrestled with Wade Chalice, obviously has the credentials? What was that like living in that house and growing up? Was it a good spirit experience? Was there some hard times?
Yeah, there were definitely some hard times, but I think I'm overall it was a good experience. And I say hard times only because my dad was a very competitive person and he was, I mean, other than, take out all of his accolades and what he was able to do, he was a high school coach. And so he was just always thinking in that mode and in that frame. So, when he asked us if we wanted to wrestle when we were five, when I was five, I'm the oldest. I'm like, yeah, totally. We get in and I just thought it was going to be playtime like it was when we would go to the practices and we just roll around and stuff. Um, I think when I was around 8 or 9, uh, there were a couple matches because some of the freestyle tournaments we'd go to. I mean, we were the family that, load up the cooler and all the food and you're gone for the weekend. And I mean, every weekend we were driving the van somewhere, to some tournament. And I remember him getting really, really mad at me on this one match. I don't even remember what happened in the match exactly, but I remember him coming at me like I was one of his high school kids. And I just didn't like it. And I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm like, man, it's not fun. I'm afraid you're gonna yell at me. I'm afraid you're gonna get mad at me. I'm afraid that I'm not gonna do what I'm supposed to do. And it's not that I didn't try. And of course, as a young kid, I can't verbalize all this stuff. And I don't want to do it anymore. That's the way it came out. But it was learning, I think, for him, how can you be the same guy, but then pare it down to a younger kid when I mean, you're a high school teacher, you're a high school coach. That is the realm that you deal with all the time. And, he played with us all the time. So, I mean, it's not like he couldn't come down to our level or anything like that. But when it got to competition, I mean, he's old school, man. Like you're gonna work hard. No one's gonna, no one's gonna outwork you. Like that whole thing. So there were some hard times early, but I remember in junior high, I wanted to come back out and we had a way better relationship after that. I think he kind of understood, and I think also it's like I was just closer to that age, so it blended well. But that's not to say that okay, we'd be at the high school working out, doing the practice, and then we'd come home and then move the bean bags out of the way and we're working single leg offenses or defenses on the brown shag carpet because got to make sure that you're ready to do whatever. Or, I saw you when you were doing this and you got to make sure you get your hips down and pop the hip and get the whizzer and you got to. And here we are doing it for another 45 minutes on top of the other one. So hard times, yeah, but I don't have another, like, it was what it was. So there wasn't like there were multiple different versions of that. And I don't have any bad, no bad taste in my mouth or anything like that from any of that time. Like I honestly was glad that I was able to have my dad as my coach. And that was, I mean, he was my hero and all that kind of, it's the classic oldest kid dad kind of relationship where I mean, I just totally idolized him and thought he was like the man. And so I wanted to be a state champ on his team. That's what I wanted super bad, as before getting even to the college stuff. So, um, I really enjoyed it. But the early ones, those were the learning years for him and me. You know what I mean?
So I think that's part of the sport, right? We all have those ups and downs, and if you have a dad that's supporting you, you're gonna have those moments where it might not be comfortable. But I believe that's part of the sport. And yes, there's parents that can take it too far. My question is though, when you were having the sessions on the brown shag and going over the singles afterwards, Rich is 11 years older than me, and he was kind of like my coach. Once sophomore year came, it was like, all right, it's time for Big Brother to take over, and give me some Big Brother loving. But then when I was in college, it was time to get it back. Did you ever have a time when you and your dad, you got the title, you took him down, or you guys got into it a little too much?
Um, yeah, what was great about my dad was that he was, um, shit, he was big and strong, and the old guys, there's something about being an old guy wrestler, even though you're in there with the young guys, like you don't have to go and showboat anything. All you got to do is wait for them to do something dumb, and then bam, you just level them. So, no, he wasn't in the same shape we were. He was in great shape for who he was and what he was, and he was, super. He was strong. He was like 6'2", 215, big dude. Um, but that was the goal for all of us, and even for like years past me, all the wrestlers. It's like, okay, who's gonna get the takedown on Coach? And that was the big thing. Um, I remember getting my takedown, and the crazy thing about it was it was there was, I mean, virtually no fanfare about it at all. And which part of me, and I always wondered, and then actually, I never even brought, God, I don't believe I didn't bring this up with him. Never really knew officially if it was, did I really get it? Or did he go, okay, son, here you go, and kind of passed it on? I really honestly don't know. I just know that when it happened, there wasn't like on his end, like, oh, shit or anything. And when I got it, it wasn't like, yeah, it was just it just kind of happened. And we just kind of went on with that from there. And there wasn't, I mean, it's not like it happened all the time after that. In fact, I don't even think after that we really wrestled all that much other than just kind of playing around, trying to stick an elbow in you and somewhere like that or grabbing clavicles or something like that. But yeah, I don't really, once that, once that torch was passed, I think it was just kind of like no fanfare. It was one of these. It was one of these. That's it. It's a little tip. That's it. It's
Was
crazy.
that in high school or college?
That was high school.
All right.
Yeah, that was senior year.
Okay.
Senior year. Yeah.
Was it was it right before the state tournament?
Nah.
All right.
When was it was in the middle of the season.
Okay.
That's what I mean. It was so nonchalant and nondescript. Like I can't have it as like it was the perfect stepping stone up to this tournament or this thing, or I was having a bad day and then, or a bad week and then it wasn't anything like that. It just happened and just kind of moved on with that. And I never ever, I mean, my dad, he he was such a strong guy that even if I was to make it a big deal and trying to say like, "Oh, I got you," it wouldn't even like bother him. You know what I mean? He wouldn't be like, "God, I shouldn't have let that ever. How could I?" Even though he's super competitive, he would just be like, "Well, that's not going to happen again." It would be one of those kind of things. It's like, okay, well, maybe you got that one, whether he gave it to me or didn't give it to me. Maybe you got that one. But if you think that now it's easy to get that, guess what? It will never be easy. Like it was always the first one all over again, any other time it ever happened after that. So yeah, it was a stud.
I was
It
gonna
was a
say,
stud.
usually, it's not a gimme when after it happens for the next hours you get proceeded to get mopped with the
Right?
mat.
Yeah, right.
That's when you
And
know it's not a gimme.
well, I mean, and that was, yeah, that was the thing. Like I couldn't tell. I mean, we were still wrestling after that, but I don't know. I still to this day don't know if it was an official. I'll say that I get it because I got it. Um, but I also know how he is. Like he's not one to give you something for nothing. And if you get some sort of an accolade, he's not going to try to like, pop your balloon or anything like that. I mean, and plus I'm his kid, so if anything, if that's going to pump me up, yeah, he'll roll with that. You know what I mean? So like really never I really never knew.
Well, there's no asterisk, so we'll count it. Two.
Yeah, exactly. Two, not even three, just two.
Did you ever get to go to Fargo?
No, I did go to the national championships when I was a kid. I never went like to that iteration
Oh, I
of
guess
it.
yeah, it might not have been Fargo when
Yeah.
you were scrapping.
But yeah, we went to the nationals and did that thing. It's it's crazy how big. I mean, even back then, you go into those tournaments and they have and these brackets, these pooled brackets that are just 100 and whatever kids that are on each side. And I feel like I talk to kids all the time. They're like, "Oh yeah, I was top 8." And I'm like, "Really? How many kids were in that tournament this year?" Because I swear there was like 700 in my in mine when I went. It was crazy. It's crazy. But it is cool to see how active a lot of the kids are, whether they're doing their high school or collegiate type season, even college stuff. And then, a lot of the Cal Poly guys, like they'll do their collegiate stuff, and then right away they're doing the U23s and the Vegas stuff and I mean, all the different tournaments that are out there. It's cool. I remember when we would go to those, it was like this massive deal. I mean, you're going to the nationals, it's the state Greco, whatever. And I just feel like for these guys, it's almost like another weekend. They're just, oh yeah, what are you doing? Oh yeah, the world, U23. The world? Seriously? Okay. That sounds pretty massive. I don't
Yeah.
know. So,
Bill, at the beginning of the podcast, you said how during COVID, that's how you kind of came back around into the wrestling scene because the Cal Poly team was using your facility. Curious, knowing what you know now, having a CrossFit gym for I think 17 years at this point, how would you program CrossFit for a wrestling program?
oh man, I tell you, I thought for sure that I would have the entire Cal Poly wrestling team working out at their own time frame here with me. And the hard thing is that it's really hard for someone that doesn't do CrossFit to understand what CrossFit can do, especially for a wrestler. Um, I truly, to my core, believe that there is no other way. Well, I'll take that back. No, I won't. There is no other strength and conditioning program that is better for a wrestler than CrossFit, especially if you're doing CrossFit like the right way, not like we're just going to do Murph every day type of thing and the super long duration. Like I was even, I mean, shit, you guys did it. I did it. How many long runs did you guys go on?
All of them.
All of
Long
them.
runs. Lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long were those runs? 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour? What
Easily.
wrestling match goes that long? Not one. So other than having to cut weight, why would we do something like that? Low intensity, long, slow duration stuff like that is ingrained as that is in the wrestling realm. There is none of us do that. Like that is not what wrestling is. Wrestling is going to be fast paced. It's going to be high intensity. It's going to be for working for about 15 minutes max and being able to blast for 15 minutes, being able to lift body weight stuff for 15 minutes, being able to pull repetition because it's single leg, single leg, single leg, or your back is burning. So it's deadlifts, or it's thrusters because have to be able to change elevation, or it's air squats, or it's pull up because you're pulling, um, or it's snatching or clean and jerks because you need some sort of a explosive hip element, or you're doing a duck under, so you have to have that extension when you're doing a snatch or a clean dropping under like that. That is a duck under. That's a slide by. That's a changing elevation and going high crotch. That's the fireman's carry. All of those movements are what CrossFit movements are. So how would I change it? I honestly wouldn't change like the programming that I do at my gym for all of our regular people and our, I don't know if you guys, I put on my CrossFit Inferno Instagram page. We just had a lady, Ursula, she's been with us for like over 10 years now, 64 years old. and she got a PR deadlift at 245. Fucking badass. Cute little Ursula here. She's ripping weight off the ground. But the programming that I would do for those people is the exact same programming I would do for the wrestling team here. And the reason I think it would work so perfectly is that I'm bound within a 1 hour time frame. And that's warming up, that's mobility stuff, that's getting all the progressionary type stuff going, which leaves me about 30 minutes of working time. And we usually will do a strength piece and then like some sort of metcon after that. So we're doing, progression stuff for all of our squats, front, back, and overhead squats, all of our deadlifting stuff, all of our pressing stuff, strict press, push jerks, clean and jerks, snatches, whatever. And then we have our metcon. So that leaves me somewhere in the realm of about 18 minutes to work on a metcon. And I can do a lot of different things with that. It can be, an EMOM, or I can do intervals of stuff, or it might just be a 10-minute AMRAP or whichever. And then in that, I'm going to be doing, weightlifting, gymnastics, and monostructural things. Not necessarily going out and running a whole. I mean, we'll do 400s or 200s or 100s or whatever, but um, the element of that intensity at that time frame with the movements that we're doing, and I program heavy. I most people, I would say that we probably um 5 to 10%, depending on the workout, 5 to 15%, will do our workouts prescribed based on the weights that we're doing. So it's not super light, it's heavy, um, relatively speaking, with a lot of explosiveness, a lot of power to the hips, the low back, the posterior chain, a lot of power to the shoulders, a lot of power and strength to the lats. Um, and what else does a wrestler need for strength and conditioning? Now I wouldn't say that. Uh,
You still there, Rich?
I'm here.
All right. Pardon the technical difficulties, folks.
Must be that rainstorm.
These things happen when you go live.
Right into the meat and potatoes. Uh-oh.
All right. Well, hopefully he comes back, but I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. Getting
How